Prepare yourself for the terror. The prison of madness, where few enter and none return.
Welcome to Unsung Horrors with Lance and Erica.
Leave all your sanity behind. It can't help you now.
Welcome to another episode of Unsung Horrors, the podcast where we discuss underseen horror films, specifically those with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. I'm Lance.
And I'm Erica.
And before we dive into this episode, we want to give a reminder that October's coming.
Yes.
Which means Horror Gives Back, our annual Horror Gives Back charity event, which is, just like a lot of people do Junesploitation, we offer up categories for each day in October, and the whole purpose is to donate money for every horror movie you see in October to either the charity that we selected or a charity that you love to back.
Yeah, and if, again, our list is there if you need inspiration. You don't have to follow it. I know a lot of people have their lists already put together. Ryan BMD shared his list. I know Adam's got his list put together. Francisco said he was participating, a few other people. So really excited for this year's challenge, raising money for Best Friends Animal Society.
Yes.
We have the calendar pinned on both our Twitter and Instagram pages, as well as a link. It's in our link tree to the fundraiser at Best Friends, so you can go directly there to donate whenever you're ready. $1 or more per horror movie you watch in October.
Yeah, and if you have any questions about the calendar, I know the yellow font sometimes is tough to read.
Yellow font's way easier to read than white font, though.
It is, but I could have changed out, especially like the Indonesia Day, which is what day is that?
It's somewhere in the beginning,
like 17th or something.
Yeah.
It has a flag of Indonesia, but Ryan did hit me up, and he's like, "Hey, I can't see what that says." So that's Indonesian horror. But if you do have any questions about any of the categories, again, it's broad. You can select your own. You can create your own for any day you can't read or you just don't even want to pick for.
Yeah.
But hit us up if you have any questions about any of the categories that you can't read or have.
Yeah, and we did in our last episode walk through all of the categories. So if you want a quick explainer on any of them, we have that real quick at the beginning of that episode too.
Yeah, that's the Flavia the Heretic episode.
Yes, sorry.
And for this episode, we're diving into a film by the German director / actor Uli Lamel. And the film is The Devonsville Terror from 1983.
Centuries ago, the forces of evil were driven out of Devonsville, Massachusetts. Now, 300 years later, the devil wants it back. Jen Scanlon has come to Devonsville to teach the children, but she is about to learn that she is a messenger from the dark side. Only evil will out evil.
So I want it really quick. Chad made a comment on our Instagram, and he was like, for years, I've been reading this as the Demonsville Terror, and he said that, and I was like, yeah, actually, same. For years, like, I've seen this poster, and in my head, it was always the Demonsville Terror, and until you brought it up as your pick last episode, I was like, oh shit, it's Devonsville.
Still, every time I say it, and I'll probably say it this episode,
I guarantee I'm gonna
Demonsville.
Do it. Yeah,
and it works. You can call it Demonsville. It looks like an M. Just get rid of the side line. So, but yeah, the Devonsville Terror, 1983, or the Devonsville Terror. It's available to watch on YouTube. There is an old out of print 88 Films Blu-ray DVD out there if you're interested on adding it to your shelf. But the quality of the YouTube, if you haven't watched it, it looks great. I think it's fine for an Uli Lamel film.
It's dark, but it's fine.
And as of this recording, it has 836 views on Letterboxd. There are actually very few Lamel films that have over 1,000 views on Letterboxd.
Mm-hmm.
I took a look. I think a lot of people will recognize his films and the film titles, but probably haven't seen too many. And he directed a shitload of films, like 50 between 1971 up until he passed in December 2017. But we'll get into his filmography in a bit. The Devonsville Terror. This is a movie I'd recently watched while cramming in a lot of witch movies when watching, films for Flavia the Heretic episode. And while watching the Devonsville Terror, I was immediately struck by its autumn vibes. And I mentioned this, during that Flavia the Heretic episode when I announced this pick, but I am so ready for fucking Texas summer to be over.
Oh my God.
So when I watched this movie, it made me feel cool and just relaxed.
I need hoodie weather. Like exactly. I have a hoodie addiction and I need to wear them. Like
her closet's open. She has I don't know, what is that? 40 hoodies in a row?
That's about right. Look, some girls have, I don't know, shoe obsessions or whatever. Hoodies. Give me all the hoodies, every single one of them. I can't.
Did you get a hoodie when we went and saw Fabio?
Hell yeah, I did.
Yeah,
I got a Fabio Frizzy DeFulci hoodie. Fucking when the Paul Bearer Press store opened over by Little Darlin', I went in there and I just pointed to all these. I was like, John, this is what I want for Christmas. He only got me one, but whatever. I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. I really want fall to be here. I want Halloween to hit because I know the weather changes. I don't know. The Devonsville Terror puts me in the mood.
Yeah.
So that's the main reason I picked this. Okay, so the Devonsville Terror, it's about witches, which I mentioned. It's a bit of a familiar storyline in the subgenre. Starts off in the 17th century. 3 women are accused by men of being witches and are killed. As one is killed, she yells, "Damn you!" as her charred face ascends into the sky, placing a curse on her executioners. And then we cut to 300 years later in the town of Devonsville, where the killings occurred back in the 1600s. And the men are still horrible, horrible people. One literally killing his wife for being sick and annoying him. And the town doctor, who's played by Donald Pleasance, is signing the death certificate, knowing the husband killed his wife, but playing it off as suffocation from pneumonia, I think. But the Pleasance character is preoccupied with removing not only the town curse and erase the guilt of the Devonsville Inquisition, but also getting these damn worms out of the inside of his body.
Worms.
Yeah, this is part of a curse that's on him and his family, as his great grandfather was the executioner 300 years ago. So these 3 women come to present day Devonsville to take on their respective new jobs. One's a teacher, one's an environmentalist, and one's a talk radio host. Mm-hmm. And the men in this community they're descendants of the men who killed the witches hundreds of years ago. They know about the curse and they're threatened by these women, believing that they're witches. And one of these women, the teacher, spoiler, played by Susanna Love, is the reincarnation of one of these witches killed. And she's unknowingly there to get revenge on the descendants. So it's the whole, your family is cursed. Mm-hmm. We'll get, your bloodline's cursed. We'll get your revenge storyline. It's directed by Uli Lamel. Like I said, this could irritate some people who might be familiar with his career. Yeah. He's a face and a filmmaker who, as I mentioned, I think a lot of people recognize. He might be best known for his work with German director and actor Rainer Werner Fassbinder or Fassbender. How do you say it?
I go Fassbinder.
I say Fassbinder too.
Yeah.
It's like a Max von Sydow thing, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe. But I call him Fassbinder. Lamel began his collaboration with Fassbinder's feature directorial debut, Love is Colder Than Death, in 1969, which Lamel starred alongside Fassbinder in. He's all his movies that I've seen with him being like a lead actor, he's a very stoic, obviously German actor, usually playing a tough guy with very little or no emotion at all, which is the case in Love is Colder Than Death.
I mean, I get it. I'm German, so.
I am too. Scheibe.
Are you? You're so nice. Jeez.
I am nice. I got all my hatred out in my first 2 years of life. I was a terrible child. And then Lamel produced and starred in a lot of other Fassbinder's movies. Whitey in 1975. And he starred in The American Soldier, World on a Wire, and Chinese Roulette. He was in a lot of Fassbinder movies. They worked closely together.
He was in like very briefly small role, The Italian Connection.
Oh, yes.
I only bring that up because R.I.P. Henry Silva.
Yes. And I will scream it on a mountain. It's better than The French Connection.
Oh,
yeah. I'll say it.
All right.
I think
all right.
I love the Italian.
I love both.
Yeah. I think that I like The French Connection too. I mean, obviously Hackman and Scheider on
right
with the car chase scenes, but I don't know. The Italian Connection just sucks me in quicker, faster, harder, longer.
I love both for different. I love both for different reasons. We'll leave it at that.
Okay. Yeah, and then in 1973, Fassbinder produced Uli Lomel's second film as a director, which was called The Tenderness of Wolves, written and starring Kurt Raub. And this film, which I watched and loved, have you seen it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's basically, I don't know, it's Kurt Raub who stars in it. He wrote it, and he plays he has this Peter Lorre look where he's just
totally
kind of this Nosferatu. He basically kills kids, takes their meat, and sells them on the black market, to people around town. Definitely worth checking it out. But that film, The Tenderness of Wolves, caught Andy Warhol's eye, and he became a big fan of Lomel's work. So Lomel moved to the States, to New York City in 1977, and he began working closely with Warhol, who was already heavily into film, producing Paul Morrissey's Blood for Dracula, Flesh for Frankenstein.
Virgins.
Yeah. Yummy Udo Kier. And Warhol produced Lomel's first American film called Cocaine Cowboys in 1979, starring Jack Palance. He also produced Lomel's next film, Blank Generation, in 1980. And Andy Warhol appeared as himself in both of these films. And he actually has a key role in Cocaine Cowboys, which is very odd.
Yeah.
I watched that. It's a lot of fun. It's pretty terrible and boring, but it's about...
You just completely contradict yourself. It's fun. It's pretty boring.
It's boring. But, when I say boring, I'm just, I don't know. I bring that term up because I know a lot of people will call it boring. Sure. I mean, I like slow moving, just watching people talk in a room, if it's interesting stuff, I'm going to be sold. But, most people want action in movies. They don't like long conversations. But Cocaine Cowboys is fun. I think it was on Tubi, or I watched it somewhere on YouTube, maybe. It's about, Jack Palance plays Raphael, who's this band manager, and they want to concentrate on their music and start becoming, a popular band. But before that, to finance their playing and their music and their rental space, they were dealing, heroin and shit. So they have to do one last job. It's worth checking out. But yeah, Andy Warhol has a key role in there. It's very odd. So Lomel moved to Los Angeles with his wife at the time, Susanna Love, and he started making horror films. And his most popular film has got to be The Boogeyman from 1980. I've seen this numerous times. I recently rewatched it, and it all kind of clicked for me. I loved it more than I ever had before.
Yeah, this was a rewatch for me too this week. And
has a child kill in it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I needed to refresh my memory because I couldn't remember if the window pane broke on him and cut his neck. And I was like, oh no, it just smashes him. So... But yeah, I love the heavy breathing ghost, and what I love about Boogeyman, there's a few things. And I say love, and I gave it 3 stars. I don't mean love 5 stars. I mean,
right.
What I love about it is there's no character comes in for an exposition or an explanation dump. You're just there with these characters figuring out what the fuck is going on. And it's essentially a possessed mirror at first, and then the spirit breaks out of that and lives in the shards of glass. And it's absolute fucking weirdness. I think it pairs perfectly with something like Bloodbeat in that way, because it's got that rural aspect, weird vibe going on with it. And I think something that Lomel does, and kind of getting back to what you said about he could be a turnoff for some people, is just like in Devonsville, Boogeyman starts off really great. You've got this weird scene of these kids watching their mom and her boyfriend, and then killing the boyfriend, And then it's like 45 minutes of nothing with like one interesting scene in there, the triple murder in the bathroom. And then the end is just like off the wall.
Yeah, that seems to be his MO, like especially in Devonsville Terror too. Like it's a cool intro, that wagon wheel, which we'll get into. And then the end is just like, so crowd pleasing.
Yeah. But but within the middle of that middle section, there's like one thing that's like, oh, I'm here to pull you back in before you turn this off and get to the end. Like there's the dream sequence that she has when she first, like that devil mask and like the fight and the spinning and all that. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself, but like he seems to have a formula.
He does.
As well as there are some motifs, I think, that come up a lot in some of his films. When we get into the film, I'll talk about those. But like I do love Boogeyman for what it is, but it's not for everyone.
No, it isn't. But you can't deny that it's an original supernatural slasher.
Yes.
Like, and that's with Uli Lommel. Like, I think a lot of his original stuff, like Olivia, which I'm going to talk about in a bit, like he's an original filmmaker.
Yeah.
But yeah, he might need to work on his pacing.
I mean,
it works for me.
You do you, Lommel.
But yeah, after Boogeyman, I guess it's called Bogeyman too, in a lot of like Bogey. I don't know.
Boogeyman, folks.
It is Boogeyman.
The kid popped his head in the window and says, "Boogeyman." It's Boogeyman. It is not Bogeyman.
Timmy, that kid. After Boogeyman, he did Olivia, which was his love letter to Hitchcock. Apparently, it has some Vertigo elements.
I gave this one 1.5. When did I watch this? Hang on. I watched this in 2020. I watched this 2 years ago and I fucking hated it. So I don't know. Maybe I'll revisit it after going through this movie.
I think you should. It has so many weird elements in it.
Everyone else gave this like 3.5, 4 stars. Adam, Justin, Liberty.
I gave it 3 stars.
Of course. You love everything.
Well, yeah. 3 stars means it's a 1-star movie, Larry people, for me. Come on.
3.5. Yeah, I need to. Yeah, I'll give it another shot. But
give it a go.
It could have been one of those I'm not in the mood for this movies. You know.
Oh yeah, like that's Lommel through and through. Like you're gonna know. Like, and then he did a movie called Brainwaves, which starred Susanna Love, his wife again, but it also starred Keir Dullea, Tony Curtis, and Vera Miles. And that's something that I noticed. Lommel was sure to do is to cast at least one well-known actor in his films.
Yeah.
You know, like that helps with financing, obviously, and viewings. But Cocaine Cowboys had Jack Palance. Brainwaves had Keir Dullea and Tony Curtis. Boogeyman had John Carradine playing the psychiatrist. And Devonsville Terror has Donald Pleasence. So he picked some good names, good actors.
Yeah.
He did a movie in 1986 called Revenge of the Stolen Stars, which had Klaus Kinski. 1989, he did an action film thriller called Cold Heat, starring Britt Ekland. And in 1991, he did a movie called The Big Sweat, starring the beautiful Robert Z'Dar.
Oh, hell yeah.
It's on my watch list. I didn't get to it. It's on Tubi. I'm going to watch that for sure. And then he also did a few Boogeyman sequels. So I watched part 2 recently.
I saw that and I was like, well, Lance did not care for this, so I know I'm not going to like it. So
yeah, it's known as, the title card says Revenge of the Boogeyman, and it's endearing.
Okay,
it's terrible, but it takes place 6 months after the ending of the original Boogeyman, and Lacey, played by Susanna Love. But Lacey goes to visit a friend in Hollywood who's married to a film director played by Uli Lommel. And she basically recaps what happens in the original Boogeyman. And at least 30 minutes of footage from the original Boogeyman is used in flashback scenes.
So it's like Silent Night, Deadly Night?
Yes.
Okay.
And Uli's character as a director, he's being hounded by producers and investors to make a movie about Lacey and her experience. And Lacey ends up, she had saved a piece of the broken mirror, from the original. And Uli's butler picks it up and he starts killing all the party goers and all the people that want to exploit Lacey's, story. Again, has the beginning's but the ending is fucking wild. Okay. And that's what makes it worth it. And it's like 70 minutes long. Actually, take out all the original Boogeyman footage, and it's like 15 minutes. Okay, so then later in his career, Lamel started to make movies about serial killers, like true crime stuff. He made more than one film about the Zodiac Killer. He made one about the Green River Killer, the BTK Killer, the Night Stalker, Son of Sam. And he even did an adaptation of the DC sniper attacks in 2002. That's where, these guys went cross country and they killed like 17 people.
Yeah.
With, like these long range snipers. And Ken Foray plays like the main sniper.
Really? Okay.
Back to the whole, he likes to get, at least one big name, right?
Yeah. I'm surprised he didn't do one on Peter Curtin. He was like the vampire of Dusseldorf. There is a film by Robert Hossein. It's in I haven't got around to it yet. It's been on my watch list forever, but he's in a,
that's not like that's not the Tenderness of Wolves.
So Tenderness of the Wolves was based on Fritz Harman.
Oh, okay.
He was the Butcher of Hanover, or the Vampire of Hanover. The Dusseldorf one was someone different though.
Right.
But yeah, anyway, maybe because that one was like,
I didn't look through like all of his serial killer movies because there's a shitload.
Right. This one was made in 1965. So the serial killer, the Vampire of Dusseldorf one.
Oh, okay.
So maybe he was like, someone already did it. But it's like, well, someone already did movies on all the other serial killers too. But
no, they're all like most of his serial killer shit is on Tubi, and I didn't dive into any of it. Like filmmakers like Lamel and like Ted V. Michaels, and they just kind of, I guess they're always consistently bad, but I feel like there's a steep decline in the subject matter that he just kind of geared into.
Sure, yeah.
Maybe I'll watch them at some point, probably not, but they're out there, people. If you like, movies on true serial killers, adaptations on that stuff, Lamel will be your fucking huckleberry. Yeah, and something about Lamel is he was really big on getting people together to come up with ideas to write and co-write scripts and stories for his films. He never wrote a movie really by himself. He always got a bunch of people. He included his wife, Susanna Love, a lot of repeat writers and friends and stuff. So he said there was an interview with, I think it was the editor of Olivia that I watched this, but he said that Lamel felt Americans were too story conscious, while he felt that the story didn't matter too much, which came across in a lot of his movies.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah. He basically just wanted the people to pay attention to what's happening with the characters on screen. That's all you're there to do.
All right.
Which, yeah, again, is like a clear formula in his movies.
Yeah.
And again, all this stuff is low budget. There was a funny story that I wanted to share real quick that was on again was from this editor, I think from Olivia. And it was him trying to finish financing Olivia. So like most filmmakers doing horror, genre, DIY stuff, there's a plan to make a movie for a certain amount of money. It never really pans out that way. So they have to make more money somehow real quick to finish the film. So Lamel called an actor up that he had worked with previously. And he basically said, I wrote this great part for you in this movie called Olivia that I'm doing. I just, it's a perfect part for you. I would need you to help fund the movie, give us $10,000 and you could fly to Los Angeles, and we'll have to film these scenes that I have for you overnight. I need the money immediately. I need you to be here immediately. It's going to be a great part for you. Mm-hmm. The actor agreed. He flew, and he flew to LA. Lamel set up all these outside shots because he didn't really have a crew for lighting. So he wrote pages of fake script, and he gave it to the actor who learned his lines. And Lamel spent 2 hours filming this actor, doing retakes, having him reread his lines, directing him. All the while, there's no film in the camera. So he's basically just fucking this guy over to get the $10,000, which he received. So he's like, thank you. This is going to be a great movie. Basically told him it was cut, but he got the money for Olivia. So, he's a filmmaker with a style that I've come to appreciate, which is just make a movie no matter what. He's passionate. He considered himself an anarchist. He didn't like order. He liked to be compulsive, take chances, and just to see what happens. And it seemed to work for him.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are a handful of producers for the Devonsville Terror, including Uli Lamel. and a few guys who always seem to help finance his films. But there's one associate producer that stands out, and that's Bill Rebane.
That makes sense because I think you just watched this recently. The Demons of Ludlow. Yeah. I was like, yeah, I can see why those two would be buddies.
Yeah. So I think a lot of listeners know Rebane he's the director of like regional low budget Wisconsin. Yeah. Blood Harvest, Monster a Go-Go. My favorite of his is The Giant Spider Invasion from 1975.
Yeah.
So good. Again, they're not really well made films, but they're just a blast to watch. Arrow have that weird Wisconsin box set that has like 6 of his films. Check it out.
My mom was here for Thanksgiving last year, and she saw that on my shelf, and she was like, "What's this weird Wisconsin? What's this?" And I was like, "Oh, Mom, you don't want to know. I don't think you want." And she was like, "I'm curious. I have to know what Wisconsin filmmakers." And I was like, "All right, let's fucking watch Demons of Ludlow. Here we go."
Oh, you put that one on?
Yeah, and she watched it.
I did watch this one recently, and just to see if maybe it'd work with double features. And yeah, it's boring. Very boring.
It's charming.
Yeah, it is charming. So yeah, Demons of Ludlow was filmed immediately after the Devonsville Terror.
Okay.
And I think Bill Rebane is on as associate producer because Laemmle actually rented Rebane's studio in Wisconsin, the Shooting Ranch, to film Devonsville Terror. So there are a lot of cast and crew and locations that are the same in each of the movies. The Demons of Ludlow, it's less about witches, more about like a town of like this cursed colonized town. And it has a possessed killer piano.
Yep.
So, but I can't wait till we pick a Bill Rebane movie. Let me rephrase that.
What?
I can't wait till I pick a Bill.
That's more accurate, yes.
Yeah. I don't think that'll happen, but we'll see.
You never know.
Okay, the original score for Devonsville Terror is Ray Colcord, and this was his first feature film. Colcord passed away in 2016, but he had a very successful career as a composer, and he was a lyricist in Los Angeles. He wrote for over like 700 television shows and films, receiving a few Emmy nominations, TV series that we all know like Boy Meets World, The Facts of Life,
2D,
Dinosaurs. Do you remember that? Not the Mama.
Not the Mama. Yeah. I remember that.
Terrible. And he also wrote a lot of original songs for TV and film, writing music for Earth Girls Are Easy, Dumb and Dumber, Babes in Toyland. I mean, he had a great career.
Earth Girls Are Easy is getting a Blu-ray. I'm very excited about that.
Oh, well.
I can't remember who's putting it out, but yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah.
It's so dumb. It's got Julie Brown in it.
Yeah, we'll get to listen to Colcord's music in there then.
Yeah.
Yeah, and his score for Devonsville's fine. It's a bit dramatic. To me, it does sound a little like made for TV, which seemed to be more his thing.
Right. I know he didn't do the score for Boogeyman, but that score is fucking...
Yes. Ooh. What is that? I think his name was like Tim Korg or Tom Korg, Krog.
It's like a monosyllabic first and last name, but he only did Boogeyman and Boogeyman 2, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure all the Boogeyman 2 music was from Boogeyman.
From Boogeyman, yeah.
But it's that... that was one of my first records I picked up when I started collecting again. Richard Brumer is the editor of of the movie. He edited movies like New Year's Evil, God Monster of Indian Flats,
Aww.
Alabama's Ghost, and he also did another Laemmle movie, Brainwaves. But he also edited Schizoid from 1980, which was my double feature pick, if you remember, with Bloodsong.
Right. Yeah.
Little Donna Wilkes double feature. And then other notable crew members. On sound, we have Donald Flick and Beth Sterner, who went on to do sound for some like bangers. RoboCop, Speed.
RoboCop is probably one of the movies that I have watched more in my life than anything else.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Either that or Predator. I'd have to think about that. Probably RoboCop, though. RoboCop's a perfect movie.
They did the sound, or Donald Flick did the sound for Predator 2.
I like the connection here.
Yeah. Anchorman.
Okay.
Into the Spider-Verse, Team America, Mean Girls. I mean, they're still like fucking knocking it out.
Okay.
And I do want to point out the makeup, who was handled by Erica Uland, who did the makeup for John Carpenter's Halloween and The Fog. So, and she also did Butcher Baker, Nightmare Maker.
Oh, yeah.
And your favorite that started it all, the original Children of the Corn, your favorite franchise of all time.
No. Part 3, baby. Part 3.
Part 2.
No.
Final Sacrifice.
You know what? The Disciples of the Crow, the short 20-minute one. It actually came out after the original Children of the Corn. That's great too.
I haven't watched that.
I think it's probably on YouTube. I know it's on the Arrow. I think Arrow put out Children of the Corn. I think it's a special feature on there. All Children of the Corn movies, except for part 3, should be 20 minutes long.
Yeah, I've never got past 3.
There's no reason to. They're all fucking awful.
Yeah.
But maybe I'll pick Children of the Corn 3 for No Rules November. Who knows?
Okay, let's do it. You heard it here, folks.
I said maybe.
Okay, so let's jump into the cast. Susanna Love, she's the star of Devonsville Terror. She plays Jenny Scanlon, the teacher who moves to Devonsville. She ends up being the reincarnated witch, or the messenger from the unknown, out to get revenge. She was married to Uli Lamel from 1978 to 1987. Her first film was Lamel's. She was in Cocaine Cowboys. It was her first real role. She played a small part in Milos Forman's 1979's Hair. She has like 11 acting credits. All of them, not including Hair, are Uli Lamel movies. And on the Vinegar Syndrome Olivia Blu-ray, she said that she didn't have any illusions of becoming a great actor or anything. Basically, she knew she was married to a man who she loved that made music or made movies for a living.
Right.
And she had a great time doing it. She loved being involved. She mentioned that he was a very loving man, a bit manic, but she thought they were a match made in heaven, and she would have continued to keep making movies with him, but he was unfaithful and kind of a terrible man.
God, men are awful.
Yeah, that's another fucking reoccurring theme in Uli Lamel movies.
And real life, apparently.
Yeah. I think she's a great actress. I mean, I think everything I've seen her in, I think she's natural. She just has a natural like look and demeanor about her that seems real.
Yeah.
I think she's great in The Boogeyman. I love how she changes her looks in pretty much every movie she's in. Olivia, Devonsville Terror, she has that short red. My mom had that exact same haircut, probably in 1983. Same color too.
I think my mom probably did too.
But Love also co-wrote 5 of the Uli Lamel films she was in: The Devonsville Terror, The Boogeyman, Boogeyman 2, Brainwaves, and Strangers in Paradise in 1984. Other cast members include Robert Walker, or Robert Walker Jr. He plays Matthew in Devonsville, who's probably the only nice guy in the movie, but he's a bit of a dimwit.
Yeah.
Believing in witches, just kind of an idiot. And he wears his pants. His pant lines are like right underneath his nipple. He's like dressed like Urkel.
You're going to be doing that soon. I mean, you're getting up there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like the look. It looks comfortable. Respect. But he was a well-known actor in the 60s and 70s, doing a lot of American television and movies, a lot of Westerns. He was an Easy Rider, Beware the Blob. He starred alongside Susanna Love in Olivia, and they have a few in hot and heavy sex scenes. I don't know if you remember those. Maybe that was a reason for your low rating.
No. What?
They're pretty steamy.
I know. God, you can't put sex in movies. That's just...
It's terrible.
It's terrible. You guys are all perverts.
And in an interview, Love said she admitted having a crush on this actor.
Ooh.
So they have good chemistry. You could see it in fucking Olivia. Another very recognizable actor, well, I guess Robert Walker's not very recognizable, but Paul Wilson, who plays Walter Gibbs in this.
Oh, he's one of the Bobs in Office Space.
He's one of the Bobs in Office Space. Yeah. He's also in Robert Englund's 976 Evil. And he pops up in another Lamel movie, Brainwaves. But he's a recognizable face. He did a lot of sitcoms, like he was in Cheers and the Gary Shandling Show.
Yeah.
And one more actor to talk about. No shade on all the other actors. There's a lot of small parts and moving characters in here.
Yeah.
Most of them were from Wisconsin, actually, that pop up in Demons of Ludlow.
Makes sense.
But we have Donald Pleasance being very 1980s Donald Pleasance in this. He's basically plays Dr. Loomis with worms. Right?
Yeah, pretty much.
And he even says, well, I don't know if it's him reading his journal, but they say evil, like Loomis.
Yeah.
He's a very nervous doctor named Dr. Worley, who's obsessed about this curse. Yeah, and then he pulls worms out of himself, with tweezers. It's gross. It's great. We all know what movies he's been in.
Yeah.
And I do want to point out the little girl named Angel in this. she gets Suzanne Love's character into trouble when she asks, like, is God a woman?
Yeah.
She's played by a young girl named Angelica Rebane, who, according to IMDb, is, quote, supposedly the daughter of director Bill Rebane and Barbara J. Rebane.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what the supposedly means.
Yeah.
That's her last name. So I don't know.
Maybe it's illegitimate.
It's IMDb.
But who knows?
That's it for cast and crew.
Well, there's one other actor on here, and I'm only bringing him up because of a movie that he was in that I wanted to recommend. Sure. William Dexter. He's uncredited on IMDb as Aaron Pendleton. I don't even know who that is.
Oh, he's the fucking gross guy, and that he's an ass to his wife. He's got he looks like he has like the eyeliner. He has real piercing eyes.
Okay, yeah, all right. So he is in this movie called Payroll from 1961. It's a really good heist movie. Justin Decloux from Gold Ninja Video. He's the guy behind that, and his podcast Important Cinema Club. So he programmed a marathon earlier this year, and that was one of the films. And if you're a fan of heist films, I definitely recommend Payroll 1961. It's on archive.org if you want to watch it.
Nice.
So we'll get into more of this film right after this promo from our network.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.
And we're back with the Demonsville Terror. Okay, so the Devonsville Terror, this is, like I said, it's a very common formula in these witch movies.
Right.
And it does lift a lot from, like so many others, the Salem witch trials, especially in the opening scene. I actually watched the made-for-TV, it's like 3 hours long, movie, Salem Witch Trials, starring Kirstie Alley, Rebecca De Mornay,
oh shit,
Shirley MacLaine.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Really? Like recently for this or like?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Well, yeah, I watched it. Maybe I watched it before the Flavia episode. It's terrible. But it is like a kind of a true account, not true account, but from what I read about it and was reading about the Salem witch trials, it pulls a lot of documented, journals like from the trials.
Sure.
And a lot of this was included in Devonsville, which I kind of wanted to go over. Like, obviously all the men are assholes, but there's a scene in the very beginning of Devonsville where one of the men are yelling at a woman named Mary Pratt, who is strapped to the wagon wheel. And he starts yelling that, she's a witch. And what marks does she have on her body, to prove this?
Right.
And in the Salem witch trials, they would strip these women, and basically, if a woman might have like a skin tag or like a mole, they would say it's the teat, to feed demons and shit.
Right.
There's a scene in that made-for-TV movie where they strip Shirley MacLaine completely naked, and I think it's really her from behind.
Oh.
There's her butt. There's a made-for-TV where there's butts, and they accuse a mole of being some sort of demon teat. And then there's the scene where Walter Gibbs he wakes up in the middle of the night. All these men are fucking terrible and horny in Devonsville.
Yeah.
And he sees Susanna Love's character, Jenny, in his mirror, and she's naked, and he's getting like obviously aroused. But men in Salem who they would claim that they would fantasize about these women in Salem, and they would accuse these women of taking form of a bird or an animal, creeping into their house and visiting them to sexually arouse them in the name of the devil. Mm. So terrible stuff. It's gross. Don't watch the Salem Witch Trials 3 hours special event directed by Joseph Sargent, who did yeah, good movies, great director. And there is some dead babies in it. If you want, you might need to watch it. Now, I actually have the times if you want to check
thank you.
it.
Jesus.
But I don't know what, you have rules. I don't know. They're kind of like stillborn and stuff. And
that doesn't count.
One of them does die later.
That counts. Fuck.
So I'll give you the time frames of that.
All
So
right,
and they
thank you.
show the babies, which is pretty cool.
Hey,
They're like
all
dummy
right.
babies. They're terrifying. But yeah, Devonsville Terror does, it's a lot of the same 300 years ago,
Right.
which has come back.
So the wagon wheel thing.
Yes.
That's a real thing. Them getting strapped to a wagon wheel. Is it getting lit on fire and rolled down the hill a real thing too then?
Well, I don't even know if...
Or is that just Lomel and his beautiful imagination?
I feel like the real thing is them being strapped to the spokes of a giant wagon wheel.
Mm-hmm.
But in Uli Lomel's version, they're strapped like on the tread of the tire.
Right.
So when they roll, their whole body's getting smashed in their face.
It's fantastic.
And it's on fire.
Yeah.
That is...
I literally, when I was watching it, I out loud was like, hell yeah.
Yeah, and that's like the first 2 minutes.
Right.
And I'm like, this
and then
movie's going to roll.
There's 45 minutes of the movie, and then it picks up again.
Yeah, and then they reenact every death scene from the beginning, with the present time women,
Right.
which is interesting. So, let's get into the kills real quick, just because they are the best part of the movies. The woman strapped to the wagon wheel is the greatest.
It is, yeah.
The present day is a version where Monica, who I think is the radio talk show host, she gets tied to the back of a pickup truck and is dragged to the street until dead. One of the women, in the 17th century, who's accused of murdering her own child and the neighbor's child.
Yeah.
She gets feasted on by pigs. Mm-hmm. She's eaten alive by pigs, which is new to me. That's a good one.
Yeah. And
then present day, the environmentalist is eaten by a pack of dogs.
Yeah. So
those are pretty brutal deaths. Classic burned at the stake fashion. Every witch movie's got to have that. Then we get to the ending, which have like some of the best kills at all of the whole movie. Which, should we just jump ahead?
Yeah. I mean, we're on death, so might as well. Yeah.
So Susanna Love, Jenny is strapped to, she's going to get burned at the stake. She's tied to this post, and she starts shooting lasers out of her eyes, which witches do.
Of course.
And there's this character, another asshole man named Ralph. His head explodes, which is a great practical effect. Think scanners, just.
It's great. Yeah.
And then one of the best is Walter Gibbs, the absolute fucking piece of shit in the movie. One of the Bobs from Office Space. He's lasered by Jenny, and his face slowly melts.
It's up there with Raiders.
It is up there with Raiders, with like the fucking, melty Nazi.
Yeah.
And Lomel knows it rules because he spends like a full minute.
Oh yeah, it's long, and I'm like, I'm here for it. I'm like, yeah,
keep it going.
Keep going. I don't care.
Give me 5 more minutes of this shit. It's great. I mean, the practical effects that they pull out at the end, obviously that's the $10,000 that Lomel probably got suckered from that actor. Because the budget wasn't spent on the Satan, the devil looking mask.
Oh no, that mask looks like it's straight out of like a, Spirit Halloween November 1st sale.
Yeah, and they tried to make it maybe kind of animatronic with its snarls, but it's terrible.
Oh yeah,
I love it. Yeah, exactly. And then there was one other kill that is gross and terrible, but Walter Gibbs in the very beginning, he smothers his wife with a pillow. And it's effective because like there's a scene where, again, Lomel kind of just zeroes in and spends a little too much time on certain scenes, but it's just her like dead with the pillow on her, and it looks gross.
Yeah.
But the kills are good. Some of my favorite scenes. Do you have any other favorite scenes that pop up or in your memory?
I don't know if it's, I could call it a favorite scene, but it's like just... let's check back in with Donald Pleasance and see what he's up to kind of thing. Because it's like every, 10, 15 minutes or so, it'll go back to Donald Pleasance, who never leaves his office, by the way.
Yeah. And what kind of doctor is he? Because Ralph shows up like at 10 p.m. and he's like, hey, I'm here for my physical.
Right. And he does like this like hypnosis light thing on people, but also will check your blood pressure. And like he's just casually like pulling worms out of his skin and waiting for people to drop by for their 10 p.m. physicals. And it's the weirdest thing. But every time it would pop over to him, I was like, oh, that's right, he's in this.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
Always pulling more worms out of his skin. And it's like it seems like he's just got this whole process down. I'm assuming he's had to deal with this his whole life, where he's just like, all right, woke up, had my coffee, pull some worms out of my skin.
Yeah, it's his morning routine. Yeah, and that is one of my favorite scenes too. You could tell that all the Donald Pleasence scenes were probably filmed in one day. They had him for one day, all in his office.
Yeah.
One of my favorite scenes is when, I think is his name Robert Walker? I forgot his name. Matthew. When Matthew walks into his office and Donald Pleasence opens the chest and he's basically like, these are all the diaries from the Devonsville Inquisition. Mm-hmm. His great-great-grandfather was the executioner. And he said that he suffered from an ugly affliction. He contracted a disease and died an agonizing death. A significant pause. He was eaten by worms. And it's such a great scene. And that's when he starts talking about how his whole family in line is afflicted with this worm disease that he has. And I guess everybody else has.
Look, I mean, after so many generations, because this is his great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, whatever, mm-hmm. right? I would think that after maybe like 2 generations, you would say, okay, this is clearly something that's going to keep getting passed on in our family. Maybe we shouldn't have kids anymore.
Yeah, but worms turn people on. And they're going to want to have sex. And that's when worm children are born. You can't stop the cycle of life. I'm gross.
Yeah.
But yeah, worms turn me on. I don't care.
All right.
Just kidding.
No kink shaming here.
Yeah, not at all. One of my other favorite scenes, which I think is completely stupid but memorable, it's that uncomfortable scene where Walter Gibbs goes to Susanna Love's house and he lists the, quote, 3 things a man needs to do in his lifetime.
Yeah.
First, he needs to plant a tree to return something to the earth. He needs to build a house with his own hands, and then he needs to have a son to carry on his name, which is such a gross, creepy pickup line, and it's obvious that he's doing, right. What he's doing here. But then he pops open a one-of-a-kind violin that his grandfather made, and he starts jamming on it for like 2 minutes. I love that scene.
I love it too, but that's also like, that is not how you court a woman.
No.
Fellas.
Oh, no. He had all the wrong technique.
Oh, no. He doesn't know what he's doing.
All the guys did, like that the Aaron Pendleton, the actor that we were talking about, how he just starts rubbing on the environmentalist's face. Like, you have soft, beautiful skin.
Ugh. Ugh.
And the women are, they're not having it, but they're very cool and collected. And they're like, okay, gotta go, just instead of fucking knocking their fucking ass out. Like,
that would have been me.
And I especially liked the scenes. There's 3 different scenes where basically everyone in town are just eating dinner at, I think it's Aaron's house. Aaron and his wife, his poor wife, who I think is the sweetest person in the entire movie. Her name's Myrtle, played by Priscilla Lowe. She makes these dinners for I guess it's the priest, it's Aaron, it's Walter Gibbs, mm-hmm. Ralph, everybody's there. And they're just all shitting on her. Like, your dinner's great. Oh, yeah, thanks. Oh, I listen to the radio. Shut up, Myrtle. It's like, it's terrible. I hate these men.
Yeah, there was one moment in the film where Susanna Love's character, she's a teacher, and one of the students, you mentioned it before, the little girl asks, I don't know if it was her who asked about God.
Yeah, it is.
Being a man. And she was like, well, that, she kind of danced around a little bit, but then explained earlier cultures had women deities and that sort of thing. And as soon as she started saying that, I was like, uh-oh, if you're telling small town folk that,
exactly,
God wasn't always believed to be a man, I was like, they're going to come out with the torches. I'm like, what's she going to do next? Try to vote? Get a driver's license?
Yeah, that when she did say that, because that kid, Angel, goes back to her father, who's that, or I guess her grandfather, who's that angry Aaron character.
Yeah.
And he tells the kid, how can God, be a woman when he created Adam before Eve? And then he says, how come every single president of the United States has been a man? It's like, quit it with your fucking fear-mongering, you fucking assholes. Claiming these women, they're warping their children's mind, conspiring against their community. But yeah, so all the men are complete assholes, and that's something that seems to be common in Uwe Lomel's films. The boogeyman, the husband in it is just terrible. Mm-hmm. The men in Devonsville Terror. And Susanna Love mentioned in an interview that I watched with her that he was an unfaithful man in their relationship, and that that when he writes women and these perceptions of women, they all come across as whores. And the story, she said, he was very big on using the term whore throughout his movie. I think it's mentioned in The Boogeyman too. Mm-hmm. And it's not an excuse, she said, but he did have a rough childhood. She said he spoke about how his mother was unfaithful, and I'm sure his father was too, but his father suspected that Uli's mom was at a hotel with somebody. So he took 8-year-old Uli into the car, parked in the parking lot outside the hotel, and waited for the mom to come out, which she did with the lover. Mm-hmm. And he started calling her a whore, called her a whore for the rest of her life while 8-year-old Uli's sitting there. So Susanna Love's she's like, he had a very traumatic childhood that seemed to just stick with him his whole life. Right. And I don't know if she helped contribute, because she wrote a lot of these scripts, and I don't know if she helped to kind of flip that on how a lot of men are assholes who have this type of outlook on women, because most of the men are assholes in Uli Lomel's movies. But on the flip side of that, a lot of the women are called whores and just terrible names. So, yeah, and she said that carried on to the roles almost all the roles she played. She felt like Uli Lomel he brought that whole mindset to his female characters, where she's like, any kind of live that life, which was kind of terrible.
He does a lot of things. I mean, granted, I've only seen, I think, 3 or 4 of his films where he's directed them, but even just rewatching Boogeyman and then watching this, he's got a mirror fixation, at least in these two. Singing in the church comes up in both of them. Bathrooms. I mean, I know there's bathrooms in lots of movies, but significant events happen in bathrooms. Like Boogeyman, there's a triple murder. And in this one, the guy who kills his wife, he sees the floating witch head coming at him. And there's banging medicine cabinet. So it's I don't want to call them motifs or recurring things, but he kind of uses the same gimmicks or elements in multiple films.
Yeah, and I bet it has something to do too with budget and just
sure.
filming in the same homes. But yeah, that does pop up a lot. Another consistent thing is the lighting, or the lack thereof.
Yeah.
All his stuff is incredibly dark, visually. And I have a theory, actually, because most of his films as well, another common theme is they take place in fall or in winter. You can see it outside and in the wardrobe that the characters are wearing. So I think he made a conscious decision to film during this time of year in the autumn and winter, because it allowed for more dark PM hours because of the time changes.
That makes sense.
And it seems because even at the exterior shots, the day shots always look great, but when you're in the house, when there are scenes inside the house, like in Devonsville, all the Donald Pleasant scenes, or when they're outside, I'm sure cleaned up, you can see what's going on, but even then, I think everything is just way too dark.
Yeah. There's one scene in particular that that really stood out to me with that. It's when, is it Monica, the DJ? Mm-hmm. And she's getting dragged behind the car, and there's a shot from behind, and there's literally I don't know where the light source is coming from, but it's not even on her. It's next to her. So you see her arm, and then the rest of the screen is nearly pitch black.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's terrible. There's a few scenes like that too. Yeah, that reminds me too of when the environmentalist is tied up and taken out to the dogs. All you see is her legs kicking and stuff.
Yeah. And then the dog's licking her.
Yeah. She's covered in peanut butter.
She is.
But yeah, he has a lot of things that he's stuck with, Uli Lomel. And one thing I do respect are the runtimes of his movies. Which,
100%. Fucking, okay. Side rant.
Yes.
I made, Lance and I have been talking about Fantastic Fest. Mm-hmm. And so that bonus episode is going to be coming soon after we both, watch some movies for that, both in theater and at home. But so many of the fucking movies on the film schedule are 2 hours plus, or an hour and 50 minutes plus. The fucking Terrifier sequel is nearly 2.5 hours long. This is bullshit, people. 90 minutes tops.
Right. I agree.
My God, people, you need to pull it out and earn it. RRR, that movie earns it. That movie earns it.
A lot of movies earn their long run times, but
mad respect, especially after coming off of the Fantastic Fest schedule getting released and me going through all these movies and being like, well, I'm not going to fucking sit in a fucking midnight movie for a 2.5 hour film.
Right.
That's bullshit.
Get home at 2 or 3 in the morning.
It's bullshit. Yeah. And so coming into Uli Lumel after that, I was like, God bless this man and his 80-minute runtime movies.
100%. Yeah. Like Devonsville is 82 minutes long. Boogeyman 2, I think, was like I said, like 77, 72 minutes. But all his movies are right about 85, 80 minutes long, which I love.
Yes.
The pacing of his movies, like we said, there are lulls, but with the runtime being so short and me being intrigued by all the characters and like the locations and stuff, I love watching these movies. I mean, I'm not going to say I love Devonsville Terror, but I think it's a good place for people to start with an Uli Lumel movie because it probably makes the most sense from his more popular, like the Boogeyman or Olivia movies.
Right.
It's less experimental, kind of more straightforward. It has like a TV made for TV horror movie.
Yeah. Minus like take out the nudity, and this could you could throw that on TV. Yeah.
I mean, there's scenes that it feels like there's a commercial break coming up, like literally, like it. And then I think that score, Ray Colcord score, adds to that feeling too. But yeah, I love the run times on these. Like you said, I'm all about that. Yeah, I mean, would you recommend this to people?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is a great entry point for people with Uli Lumel as a director. And Tenderness of the Wolves, I love. I think that's my favorite film that he's done. I don't know it's not in line with like these other ones that we've really been talking about, like Boogeyman and Olivia, but I like that one the most. I'll revisit Olivia, but I do like this one. I'm with you. I don't love it, but I mean, man, that opening with the burning wheel and then the end, I'm just like, okay, you hooked me in, you bored me, and then you brought me back in. Okay, I'm on board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. And I do think, I think the Tenderness of the Wolves is probably his best film as director that I've seen so far.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say when he moved to America, he just started making crappy movies, but
no, but it's
it's completely different.
His aesthetic and his sort of subject matter is much more different. He still brings in this sort of nuanced feeling to everything that he does, but Tenderness of the Wolves is completely different than his other film.
It's like an art house movie. I mean, it's really well made and acted and scripted, which he had no part in. So I think that's why I do. That probably
has a lot to do with it.
But yeah, again, Devonsville Terror, the ending is such a crowd pleaser that it's worth it for the ending and for the wagon wheel death 100%.
Totally.
What would you pair as a double feature?
So I wanted to go with another witch film that was, kind of in the same vein of like hundreds of years ago, this witch died and now she's back kind of thing. And there's a lot we've talked about that already. There's Superstition from 1982, which has like one of the greatest posters of all time, but is a pretty underwhelming film. I saw you log this for Terror Tuesday, and this was 2017, but this is right before I was on Letterboxd, but Necropolis from 1986. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great one.
She-Wolf 1983, that's on the full core set.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet.
That's a good one, and this one's a little bit different because it is, the wife dies and she comes back as a she-wolf that's haunting her husband kind of thing. So it's a little different, but a little bit in the same vein. Burned at the Stake, Bert I. Gordon's film. It's fine. It's Bert I. Gordon. It's, it is what it is. There's one that I wanted to watch for this, but I couldn't find it anywhere. It's a Finnish movie from 1952 called The Witch.
Oh.
And it looks really good. I added it to my watch list. Maybe I'll, look around for it in some other avenues later on, but kind of the same situation. I think like a witch dies and then she comes back and starts just terrorizing all the men. Very vague overview of it, but I didn't get a chance to watch it. I wanted to. So there's a lot in this realm.
There is actually, yeah. I mean, my pick is one too.
Oh.
I'm kind of waiting for you to say it.
Oh, okay. Uh-oh.
It's going to be yours.
So I ultimately went with Daughters of Satan from 1972.
Okay.
That's not yours, right?
That's not mine.
Okay, good. This has a Shout Factory Blu-ray. It's Filipino exploitation film. It's about an art dealer named James, played by Tom Selleck.
Oh, nice.
He buys a painting of 3 witches who were burned at the stake. And one of the witches in the painting looks exactly like his wife. Then he buys the painting, brings it home, and the women in the painting start disappearing, kind of like in, Back to the Future, where Marty's siblings all disappear. So they start disappearing one by one and then possessing his wife and 2 other women to get revenge on Tom Selleck's character, whose ancestor is the one who burned them at the stake. So
Does he have a mustache in this?
Oh yeah, he's got a mustache in it. I know there's like a few roles where he doesn't have a mustache and it's very jarring, but no, he's full Magnum PI in this.
Nice.
Yeah. So Daughters of Satan, 1972. That's got a Shout Factory Blu-ray.
Sweet.
What about you?
Yeah, so I didn't want to do an Uli Lommel double feature, but I think something would work in that. And I did think about Bill Rebane's Demons of Ludlow, mainly because of the similar cast,
Sure,
the locations, kind of like when I picked Burial Ground for Patrick Still Lives, the same location.
Yeah.
What was that? Villa Parisi?
Parisi, yeah.
But Demons of Ludlow's boring. I'm not going to lie.
It is.
So yeah, I wanted to go with another kind of like witch revenge flick. And it was between 2 films for me, 2 movies. One is called Mark of the Witch from 1970, directed by Tom Moore.
Yeah.
I watched this a few years ago. It's on Tubi. I recommend it. It's slow, but it has it's like a hippie period. College student is a descendant of like a persecuted witch, and she's out to get revenge. That one's worth checking out, but I went with The Long Hair of Death from 1964.
Nice.
Antonio Margheriti. This is one I watched last June for the Italian horror category for Junesploitation. And I mainly focused in on this one because it does have the same autumn feel kind of that you get from Devonsville. It's in black and white, but you get mad October vibes. And that's what I want. Like, here comes Halloween. Same witches killed, descendants get revenge formula. But this one's it starts in the 15th century. A woman's accused of witchcraft. She's burned at the stake. And as the generations move on of her descendants, it's realized that all this witch murdering is revolving around these high-ranking men's desires of these women. So the men are true assholes again, and they kill women as witches for the temptation that they have towards them.
Yeah.
Which you see in Devonsville. And then the supernatural revenge that plays out in Long Hair of Death is slow but very satisfying to watch unfold. Barbara Steele plays multiple roles in this, so that's enough reason to just watch this if you haven't.
Yeah.
I think it's on YouTube. It's streaming on Canopy. I had picked up the Raro Video Blu-ray that Kino sold.
Yeah.
Worth picking up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Great
so
pick.
What's your pick for your next episode?
Oh, next episode. I'm like, I just did my double feature.
I don't like that double feature pick. What's another one?
Well, there's plenty of witch revenge movies. So, just literally Google that and you'll have plenty. Yeah. So I made a last minute change. I had my pick. And then we got some very sad news yesterday, as of this recording, that Henry Silva passed away.
Yes.
So I made a change to a Henry Silva film. And he doesn't have very many horror films. He spent a lot of his time doing action and exploitation films and things like that. Mm-hmm. But there is one that I've been saving and been meaning to watch. And yesterday seemed appropriate to finally watch it. And I was like, yep. We're going to cover this film and we're going to do a little tribute episode to the greatest cinema presences ever.
Yes, this makes me so happy.
I'm very excited for this one. Yeah.
Yeah. What a life. What a career.
I mean, he lived to be 93, 94. Yeah. It's not tragic because he had a very long life, a very prolific career. But I think what's the most sad about it is knowing that some of your favorite actors are no longer with us. When John Saxon died, that stung, that hurt for me because that was my first like really big movie crush.
Yeah,
and it's all of my favorite movies are older movies, and so it's getting to the point where like okay, I'm sorry, I don't want to bum anyone out, but Dario Argento is probably going to die soon, folks. Like,
yikes.
Things like, I mean, like Franco Nero is going to die one day.
No, he's not.
I'm sorry, but he's
got 20 years left.
I know. I mean, I'm saying someday. I hope he outlives me.
Everybody dies. I mean,
everybody dies. It's hard, but it's like when your favorite actors are going, and it's like there's nobody contemporary that I give a fuck about. Like, you know, what do I care? Leo DiCaprio dies. Oh, no more ugly crying. You know,
he is the best at ugly crying.
He is.
That's going to be his full montage in memoriam. It's just him crying with snot and boogers.
Anyway, back to Henry Silva.
Yeah.
We're going to be covering Trapped, aka Baker County, USA from 1982. This is directed by William Fruitt. He also did Blue Monkey and Death Weekend, which is the Canadian House on the Left. I think I picked that for Junesploitation a few years ago.
Oh, yeah.
So this is mostly a Hicksploitation film, but it does have horror elements. So I'm kind of going same lines as what I did with Flavia. Like we did an unsploitation film that has horror elements in it, kind of thing. So I'm cheating a little bit, but I think our audience is fine with that because we're talking about Henry Silva.
Yeah.
So it's about a group of college students in the woods. They witness a murder committed by a group of mountain-dwelling moonshiners. And so it becomes this sort of like, okay, we got to get out of here. Oh, but we have to go back and get our stuff. And oh, now we're captured and now we're getting away again. This movie is Henry Silva dialed up to 11. I mean, he is committed to that Appalachian accent, and he is just bringing it in this film. The ending is a fucking banger. I mean, I'm not going to spoil it for anyone, but I love it. As of this recording, it has 568 views on Letterboxd. Okay, so where to watch this? Mm-hmm. There is a version on YouTube, but it's in German. So, and it's a terrible copy anyway. So sorry, don't watch that. There is a foreign Blu-ray release of this, which is region ABC. So it'll work for whoever, even though it's a foreign release, I think Spain. There's also DVDs of it. A very nice lady downloaded this and tried to upload it to YouTube, but it got copyright strike. So a very nice lady tried to make it more accessible for viewers, but weren't able to do that. So if you do not want to purchase this, that is fine. I get it. You can DM us and we'll email you a copy of the film. But this offer only stands till the end of 2022 because I don't want someone like messaging us in 2024 and being like, hey, can you email me a copy of Trapped? So this is for our, listeners who, I know there's a few of you who like to watch movies ahead of time in preparation for the next episode. If you don't want to buy the Blu-ray or DVD, I get it. Just message us and one of us will email you the film. All right. So yeah, offer stands until the end of the year. If you want a copy of this, just let us know.
Awesome.
So Trapped, 1982, starring the great Henry Silva for next episode. We will also have an upcoming bonus episode covering Fantastic Fest. I think the next episode should be Trapped and then a Fantastic Fest bonus episode and then Lance's pick. And then we're going to get into No Rules November.
This is exciting.
I know. And I did want to give folks a heads up that we are going to be taking December off.
Yes.
Mama needs a break. And but we still will have an end of year bonus episode covering our top 5 new to me films for 2022. Lindsay and Anthony are going to be rejoining us for that. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But just wanted to give a heads up about what's to come. If you're not already, you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Unsung Horrors. Remember that link for the Horror Gives Back Challenge is in our link tree. That starts next week. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Letterboxd at Hex Massacre.
You can follow me Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at L-Shivey.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you back next episode for Trapped.
Bye.
Bye.
Those fingers in my hair, that sly come hither stare, that strips my conscience bare, it's witchcraft. And I've got no defense for it, the heat is too intense for it. What good would common sense for it do? 'cause it's witchcraft, wicked witchcraft. And although I know it's strictly taboo, when you arouse the need in me, my heart says yes indeed in me. Proceed with what you're leading me to. It's such an ancient pitch, but one I wouldn't switch, 'cause there's no nicer witch than you. That crazy witchcraft. And although I know it's strictly taboo, when you arouse the need in me, my heart says yes indeed in me. Proceed with what you're leading me to. It's such an ancient pitch, but one that I'd never switch, 'cause there's no nicer witch than you.
Hey, it's Death by Video.
I'm Phil.
I'm Kit.
And I'm Graham saying welcome to our podcast full of merry movie mayhem.
Ever wonder what an Irish kung fu movie would look like?
It's called Fatal Deviation, and we covered it.
Ever wonder what a movie about 1,000 cats would look like?
It's called Night of 1,000 Cats, and we covered it.
And it stars Hugo Stiglitz. Listen to Death by Video to hear us discuss and dissect some of the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest films ever made. All this and more on Death by Video! Woo!